In Vatican City, a remarkable moment unfolded behind the imposing wooden doors of the Apostolic Palace. Pope Leo XIV, having just ascended to the papacy, looked up from his notes and, with a nod, signaled to the guards. They opened the doors, and in walked Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. It was just the two of them. No cameras, no press, simply a private conversation that would send ripples around the world. Why was this meeting so secretive, kept off the calendar until the last moment? And why did it happen so soon after Leo XIV made history as the first American pope? If this was a routine gathering, it didn't feel that way, as the Vatican is always ripe for speculation when it comes to silence and secrecy. Just 12 days prior, the world had cheered when the white smoke billowed from the Sistine Chapel, announcing the election of a new shepherd for the Catholic Church. And now, Leo was taking steps that had the potential to reshape the Church's power dynamics. Cardinal Tagle, once seen as a likely successor to Pope Francis, was loved by many and was often referred to as the Asian Francis. Even though he wasn't chosen in the conclave, here he was, called for a private audience with Leo. No interpreters flanked them, no entourage to fill the space, just two influential figures sharing a moment that carried the weight of unspoken questions. Since the election, the Vatican press office had released only a single line announcing that His Eminence Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle had met with the Holy Father, and that brevity only fueled curiosity. Why was Tagle summoned so swiftly? What could possibly be discussed behind those locked doors? A new title, a shift in leadership, or perhaps something much deeper? May 16, 2025, the date of their meeting held unique significance. It was exactly 1 week after Pope Leo's inaugural address, where he advocated for a church that listened before it led, one with open ears and open hands. Yet there he was, engaging in that very listening, not with diplomats or bureaucrats, but with a man many considered to be a former contender. This wasn't just a strategic media move. It was something much more personal. In the Vatican, conversations can be fleeting, lasting mere minutes, but this dialogue extended close to an hour, sparking whispers throughout the corridors about its urgency. What was so crucial that it required such significant time, such profound attention from the new pope? I found myself reflecting on a pivotal moment recently, one that seemed to shift the entire course of the Catholic Church. Pope Leo XIV, who was once Cardinal Robert Faust, settled into a private room for an important meeting with Cardinal Tagle. It was intriguing to note that the usual aides and assistants weren't allowed in, leaving just the two of them behind closed doors. You could almost feel the gravity of the situation as they faced each other. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Pope Leo, having served right at the heart of the Vatican, was acutely aware of its inner workings. He understood the areas that needed change. On the other hand, Tagle was deeply connected to the global church landscape. He had walked through villages in Myanmar, shared tears with refugees, and celebrated joyful moments with orphans in the barrios of Manila. This wasn't just any bishop. Tagle had a powerful vision and an appreciative following. Rumors were swirling that Leo was considering offering Tagle a significant promotion. Some speculated this could mean a formal elevation to the role of full prefect of evangelization, rather than the pro-prefect position he'd held under Pope Francis. Others hinted that Leo might have something different in mind altogether, a call for Tagle to take the helm of the still vacant dicastery for bishops, a role Leo once occupied himself. This was a moment pregnant with possibility, but it made me wonder, would Tagle even accept such offers? Yet maybe the essence of that meeting transcended mere job titles and promotions. Perhaps it was a moment for both of these influential figures to align their visions. They were wrestling with the question, where do we go from here? This wasn't just about hierarchy, but rather an intimate exchange of trust and direction in a time when the Church faces deep disillusionment. With many Catholics distancing themselves from the pews and scandals, wielding their heavy toll, trust has become the Church's most valuable currency. When Pope Leo closed that door behind him, it became clear this encounter was about more than mere strategy. It was about legacy. As they discussed the future, it was evident that what transpired in that room could influence the trajectory of the Catholic Church for years to come. The world is now watching closely. What role will Tagle assume, and why did the Pope choose this moment to act? The implications of their conversation are far-reaching and significant. The era of Leo has begun, and it feels like we're standing on the brink of something rather extraordinary. Just a few days after the world first got to know Pope Leo XIV, curiosity stirred among many about who this quiet yet powerful figure was, now guiding over 1 billion Catholics. My journey to the papacy began long before I ever stepped foot into the Vatican, rising from the humble streets of Chicago, Illinois. Born in 1955, I wasn't groomed in the opulent corridors of power, but shaped by real experiences with real people. As a young man, I felt a deep calling that took me thousands of miles away from home. I joined the Order of St. Augustine and found myself in Peru, dedicating several years to a life as a missionary in a region grappling with poverty and political upheaval. My mission was not about gaining influence, but about fostering trust. I didn't just preach. I worked to embody the gospel, walking alongside those who had little, serving steadfastly in silence, and immersing myself in a culture I was not born into. Many locals came to know me not as Father Robert, but as someone who took the time to truly listen, even when the circumstances were tough. In those formative years, I earned a reputation for my commitment to pastoral care, humility, and fierce dedication to justice. My ascent within the Church was gradual rather than sudden. It wasn't until 2014 that Pope Francis appointed me as Bishop of Chimbote, Peru. Shortly after, I moved to Rome, assuming one of the most sensitive roles in church governance, overseeing the evaluation and selection of bishops across the globe. Though I wasn't always the loudest voice at the Vatican, those who paid close attention noticed this pattern. Whenever the Pope faced complex issues requiring discretion and compassion, he turned to me. Then came the 2025 conclave, a moment few anticipated I would emerge from as the Pope. Even fewer believed that a soft-spoken Augustinian from the Midwest could become the first American to sit on the chair of St. Peter. Yet, in one of the most unexpected twists in modern church history, the Cardinal saw something in me, not a politician or a reformer, but a true shepherd. I was someone who had spent decades understanding what it meant to serve without seeking recognition, and demonstrated the steadiness needed to lead during turbulent times. My election signaled more than just a change in leadership. For many Catholics in the Americas, it was a landmark event, a direct message that the Church was listening to voices beyond Europe. Growing up in the bustling streets of Manila, I was just a curious boy, filled with wonder, and questions. My journey began in 1957 in the Philippines, where faith was woven into the very fabric of daily life. We attended Mass every morning, shared humble meals, and found joy not in material things, but in our deep-rooted beliefs. My father worked as a fisherman, and my mother, of Chinese descent, created a home filled with love rather than political aspirations. From a young age, I displayed a quiet sensitivity that I would carry throughout my ministry. Those traits became clearer as I studied theology in seminary, where I truly began to shine. I wasn't the loudest voice in the room, nor was I the most imposing figure, but when I did speak, people listened. It became clear to me that the combination of intellect and empathy could be powerful, capturing the attention of church leaders along the way. I took my studies to Rome, earning my doctorate with distinction, but my mission was never to remain a distant academic. I returned to the Philippines not to stand on a pedestal, but to meet people where they were hurting. My sermons were never abstract. They were filled with real stories that evoked laughter and tears. I embraced the language of the people, ensuring that my messages were simple, sincere, and deeply moving. When I was appointed as Archbishop of Manila in 2011, many outside the Philippines expressed surprise. However, within my homeland, there was a recognition that I was ready to lead with compassion and understanding. My approach to leadership was never about charisma or control. Rather, it was about character. Then something remarkable happened. I became a part of a transformative time for the Church, a moment that suggested we might be stepping into a new era of leadership with Pope Leo XIV. This development caught the world's attention. Though he started quietly, those in his inner circle noticed the intensity of his private schedule filled with meetings of significance, bishops, religious orders, diplomats, and Cardinal Tagle. He may appear passive, but don't be fooled. In reality, he is an active force with plans that could reshape our future. As the world waits to see what the new Pope will do next, it's essential to look back at how he got to this point. His journey is not one of ambition, but of mission, a path defined by listening more than speaking. At this moment, the question isn't whether Pope Leo XIV will implement changes. It's about when those changes will unfold and how they'll resonate throughout the Vatican. In the heart of Tucson, I found myself reflecting on my journey and the many people who have shaped my understanding of faith and service. It often amazes me how quickly the world can define someone, like when folks started calling me the Asian Francis. It wasn't because I was imitating the Pope, but rather because we shared a heartbeat of compassion, simplicity, and a willingness to shed tears in public. From the very beginning, I knew my mission was to focus on people rather than power. It's this belief that has guided my actions. I began by opening the doors of the Archdiocese to those in need, offering confessionals in public parks, because I wanted everyone to feel welcome. My message was always clear. Our true purpose as clergy is rooted in service, not in control. By 2015, this philosophy caught the attention of Rome, and Pope Francis appointed me to a vital role in the Vatican, the prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. It was a dream position for me, guiding the Church's mission where it was most needed, in places where faith was still blossoming or facing adversity. I think evangelization should never be about conquest. It's about building encounters and relationships, sharing faith without the sting of argument. Those closest to me know I'm not one for the limelight. I'm the type who sheds tears easily, spends more time in prayer than expected, and carries the burdens of our church silently. When I speak, it's not about projecting power, but offering authenticity. I find myself getting emotional when I talk about migrants and the marginalized. My reflections on Christ come from a place of true relationship, as if I've genuinely walked with Him. There were moments when people speculated I might become Pope, but it was never on my radar. That wasn't my desire. The Church, however, seemed to crave someone like me, someone who could bridge divides. When the conclave of 2025 concluded and they named someone else, I didn't feel disappointment. Instead, I smiled, said my prayers, and gave thanks for the opportunity to serve. There was no bitterness. I never craved the throne. With Pope Leo XIV now leading us, I see my role differently, not as a competitor, but as a collaborator. Our recent meeting felt natural, like two shepherds discussing how best to care for our flock. The reason people feel moved when I speak is simple. It's about truth, a truth forged through years of service and the hopes carried by my community. I truly believe the Church shines brightest when it kneels down in love, not when it tries to flex its muscles. As the dust settles in Rome, I remain committed to this vision of compassion and service. In the heart of the Vatican, there's this palpable feeling of anticipation these days. As the Church stands on the brink of yet another pivotal moment, the focus has shifted towards a fascinating collaboration, one that brings together Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle. You wouldn't necessarily think these two are cut from the same cloth at first glance. Pope Leo, an American with deep missionary roots in Peru, is known for his disciplined and contemplative nature. In contrast, Cardinal Tagle hails from Manila and is profoundly shaped by the rich diversity of Asia. His emotional openness and theological depth give him a unique perspective. What's remarkable is how their differences don't divide them. Instead, they seem to forge a powerful partnership that carries significant meaning for the Church's future. Though they didn't ascend the ranks of the Church together, their paths intertwined frequently. Back in the day when Pope Leo was still known as Robert Francis, he expertly led the Vatican's dicastery for bishops. His approach was careful and deliberate. He wasn't one to be swayed by the allure of popularity or political maneuvering. Rather, he sought out individuals of genuine holiness and mission, and in Cardinal Tagle, he found a strong ally. As the prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, Tagle lived out that same mission. Together they worked within overlapping realms, united by a shared vision, a church that listens before it speaks, that walks alongside the poor, and one that preaches not merely from the pulpit, but through actions that resonate in the community. When Pope Leo took the papacy, a lot of people were curious about who he would surround himself with. He had the power to shake things up and appoint new senior leaders across the Curia. But instead of rushing to make changes, he chose to take a step back. He listened, and perhaps most importantly, he kept Cardinal Tagle close, not out of obligation, but out of genuine trust. This trust wasn't born from strategic meetings or convenience. It flourished through witnessing each other's silent dedication to their work. They observed how the other handled pressure, how Tagle comforted those in need, and how Leo navigated the intricate web of bishop appointments with a deft touch. In a time when the Church faces increasing challenges from secular forces and internal debates, the significance of their collaboration is monumental, perhaps even a beacon of hope for a more unified Church. There's something truly powerful about coming together in the face of global injustice, but it's the kind of unity rooted in mutual respect rather than simply conformity. Pope Leo, with his deep theological insight and genuine pastoral care, brings a wealth of experience from years spent in Latin America. He has seen the struggles of the marginalized up close, walking alongside those who often feel forgotten. Then there's Cardinal Tagle, whose emotional intelligence and sensitivity to different cultures are qualities you can't easily teach. He embodies inclusivity in everything he does. It's evident in his warm smiles, heartfelt tears, and the way he serves others. When you think about their partnership, it opens up a world of possibilities. Together, they could dramatically change how the Vatican approaches missionary outreach, especially in places where the Church faces misunderstanding or persecution. You can envision new initiatives emerging from their collaboration, ones that not only share Catholic teachings, but also display the very essence of Catholic love. Picture Vatican programs designed to uplift local communities, extending support beyond just the clergy. Envision a renewal in efforts towards indigenous evangelization, where the Church is more inclined to listen rather than preach. It's a shift away from a fear of decline to a hopeful vision for renewal. But their mission isn't solely about evangelization. Social justice is central to their work. Pope Leo has consistently highlighted the importance of a church that humbly kneels before the poor. Cardinal Tagle has been visibly moved while discussing the plight of migrants during interviews, shedding tears for their suffering. To them, justice isn't a political agenda, it's the authentic outcome of profound faith. Their partnership could ignite a worldwide church that wholeheartedly commits to aiding refugees, combating human trafficking, and tackling climate change. Not as mere activists, but as devoted disciples. Some may question whether two gentle souls can effectively lead such a massive institution, but that viewpoint misses the essence of true power. The gospel message wasn't delivered from lofty thrones, but resonated among lepers, mourned in Gethsemane, and offered forgiveness on the cross. Real leadership within the Church isn't about exercising authority, it's about being a witness to faith. And both Leo and Tagle understand that intuitively. They don't need to raise their voices. Their quiet acts of service convey more influence than any headline could ever express. As for what Pope Leo will ultimately request from Tagle, whether he elevates him, entrusts him with new duties, or continues to seek his advice in subtle ways, remains to be seen. Nevertheless, the groundwork has been laid for a momentous change. It doesn't require a flashy announcement to make an impact. All it needs is unwavering commitment. In Tucson, Arizona, there's a palpable sense of hope among Catholics observing the developments unfolding within the Church. Behind those ancient stone walls, significant discussions are taking place, discussions that have the potential to redefine the future of faith. It's refreshing to see that humility still plays a vital role in leadership. The Church isn't just trying to survive, it's gearing up for something new. As this partnership evolves, many will speculate and analyze every move made. Commentators will have their say, debating the implications of each decision. Yet, for those of us who watch with faith, it's reassuring to recognize that the Spirit continues to guide us. When two shepherds, one hailing from the Andes and the other from Manila, join their paths, something sacred stirs within the heart of the Church. Right now, the Catholic Church finds itself at a pivotal moment. From the serene hills of rural Europe to the bustling cities of Asia, and the peaceful chapels of Latin America, there's a shared feeling of uncertainty among the faithful. This sense isn't sprouting from one specific incident, but is instead woven from the gradual shift of cultural norms, a decline in vocations in certain areas, and an increasing generational gap between traditional practices and modern connections. These aren't indications of a church in crisis. They reflect a period of transformation. The real concern lies not in whether change is imminent, but in how the church will embrace that change while retaining its core essence. At this fragile juncture, Pope Leo XIV's leadership, alongside those he selects to walk beside him, will shape the path ahead. What we're witnessing isn't a decline, but rather a refining process of the Church. With roots in both pastoral care and academia, Pope Leo XIV embodies a unique blend, the patience of a shepherd and the insight of a theologian. His vision unfolds subtly through his initial addresses and actions. To him, this era isn't characterized by fear, but instead by the opportunity for growth and formation. While some might react to challenges by tightening control, Pope Leo takes a different approach. He practices reflection and recalibration. He immerses himself among his people, listening, engaging, and probing questions that often go unnoticed. Who have we overlooked? In what areas have we distanced ourselves? What needs to be reignited? In this broader context, the importance of voices like Cardinal Tagle's becomes increasingly apparent. The Church isn't simply steered by a single leader. It's invigorated by a chorus of faithful individuals interpreting, proclaiming, and living out the gospel in ways deeply connected to their communities. Reflecting on the evolving role of Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle, I find it fascinating how they come together as essential figures in bridging gaps. Their connection isn't just about mixing Eastern and Western traditions. It also highlights a move toward embracing fresh expressions of faith. Pope Leo brings a deeply contemplative side to spiritual leadership, having honed his skills through years of theological training and pastoral work. On the other hand, Cardinal Tagle embodies emotional clarity and cultural insight, ensuring that religious teachings resonate with the lives of families, youth, and everyday working people. What's striking is the collaborative spirit between them. It's not about holding power or climbing the hierarchy, but rather nurturing each other's strengths for the sake of renewing the Church. They represent a moment in time that feels particularly crucial, where the Church has thrived not during periods of certainty, but in times filled with honest questioning. Think about the early centuries. They also faced significant challenges, from persecution to deep-seated doubts. The Renaissance saw the Church grappling not just with art and science, but its own fallibility. Even the Second Vatican Council emerged from a longing to reconnect the world with a Christ who is relatable, one who laughed, suffered, and rose among us. In many ways, we find ourselves in a similar situation today. Currently, there's a pressing need to express that Christ is still present, beckoning us to love boldly and courageously, not merely to defend old ways, but to embrace what has always been true. Pope Leo seems acutely aware of this necessity. His early homilies have shown a tender pastoral approach, using the imagery of the Church as a field hospital. This isn't an institution hidden behind closed doors, but rather a welcoming space dedicated to healing. He avoids catchy slogans or headlines, opting instead to speak plainly about truth, mercy, responsibility, and love. Those words can lose their potency when repeated without authenticity, but when lived out genuinely, they ignite a powerful sense of hope. The real struggle for the Church today may not stem from external cultural pressures, but rather from the quiet spiritual exhaustion felt within its own community. Many lay Catholics don't feel rebellious. They simply yearn for the Church to communicate with them in a way that resonates, clear, compassionate, and filled with conviction. In this context, figures like Cardinal Tagle are indispensable. His voice helps bridge that gap, ensuring the Church speaks to the hearts of the people once again. You know, there's something remarkable about Pope Leo XIV's approach to leadership that struck me deeply. It's not just about lofty theological discussions, but about reaching the heart of people. His authentic expressions, tears, pauses, and moments of vulnerability don't weaken the Church's authority. Instead, they root it in reality. It's as if he's saying that to lead is to suffer alongside those you serve, rather than simply preaching from a distance. When he took time to thoughtfully consider appointments or reshuffles, it wasn't hesitation on his part. It was true discernment. In our noisy world where everyone seems to react instantly, taking a moment for silence can be revolutionary. That quiet pause creates a space not just for reflection about leadership, but for imagining the kind of Church we aspire to be. Unity, I've come to understand, isn't solely based on agreement. It starts with a willingness to listen, and that's the kind of leadership Pope Leo embodies, first hearing the voices and hearts of the people before making decisions. This glimpse into his leadership style also highlights a quiet strength within the Church. Sure, the grand proclamations of popes and cardinals make the headlines, but the true heartbeat of the Church thrives at the grassroots level. Think about it: the prayers of devoted mothers, the tireless efforts of local priests, the youth discovering their faith in unique ways, the service initiatives, Eucharistic adoration, catechesis, and social outreach. These are the deep roots of the Church, sustaining it even when the branches above face storms. As for what's next, I can't say for sure. Yet there are hints of a hopeful future, of a pope who exercises patience and a cardinal who inspires trust. The global Church seems to be awakening, not out of a desire for novelty, but truly yearning for renewal. This isn't just about structural changes, but a profound spiritual transformation. Rather than fearing what comes next, it feels like a moment to prepare. Throughout history, whenever the Church embraced its mission with humility and passion, it rediscovered its voice, reminding us that the gospel isn't just a relic of the past, it's a guiding light for the future. I believe that at this crucial juncture, if the Church can hold onto that idea, this time of uncertainty might blossom into something incredibly powerful, a new clarity leading to a profound unity. This unity wouldn't be just about agreement, it would be grounded in our shared belief that Christ is still guiding His Church, urging each of us to journey together, even when the path ahead is unclear. The news about Pope Leo XIV's discreet meeting with Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle created quite a buzz across the global Catholic community. Whether from the vibrant heart of Manila or the serene chapels in rural Italy, the response was one of curiosity, hope, and a cautious excitement. It wasn't merely about the specifics of their conversation, but what it symbolizes for the Church's future. In a remarkable turn of events, the Vatican recently witnessed a meeting that many believe signals a new direction for the Church, especially in the Philippines. It wasn't just a casual meeting, it was a significant moment as Pope Leo XIV sat down with Cardinal Tagle, a figure revered not just as a leader of the church, but as a beloved national icon in the Philippines. The news of their meeting sparked a wave of emotion among devout Catholics. People gathered in prayer groups, masses were held in gratitude, and discussions were filled with a renewed sense of hope. One parishioner from Quezon City expressed the collective sentiment perfectly, saying, "We always knew Cardinal Tagle had the heart of a shepherd. Seeing him meet with Pope Leo so soon tells us that God is working." This feeling of hope is something that has resonated deeply as many believe this new chapter, led by compassionate and humble figures, may be exactly what the Church needs, especially in regions like Latin America, where Pope Leo XIV's missionary roots are well regarded. The reactions to this meeting were heartfelt, particularly from the communities that remember the Pope not just as a cardinal, but as Padre Roberto, who spent years walking rural paths, speaking the local dialects, and living among the impoverished while celebrating Mass under the open skies. For many, the image of him now in the Apostolic Palace, deep in conversation with Cardinal Tagle, one of Asia's most respected voices, is incredibly inspiring. A deacon from Peru shared, "He knows us, he knows how to listen, and now he's listening to the world." Catholics across the United States also felt a surge of pride and hopeful prayers. With Leo XIV being the first American pope, his ascent has already sparked headlines and profound homilies. However, it was this decision to take a step back, to reflect, and to meet privately with Cardinal Tagle that truly resonated with people in a culture often focused on urgency. The Pope's deliberate choice to discern, listen, and reflect came across as both bold and refreshingly spiritual. A theology professor based in Chicago beautifully articulated this sentiment, stating, "This is the Church being what it's supposed to be, not rushing, not reacting, but discerning, praying, and listening." What elevated this moment beyond just a change in leadership was its deeper symbolism, especially for those who felt marginalized within the Church. The encounter between Pope Leo and Cardinal Tagle signified a meaningful shift for the global South, lay Catholics, and those who often find themselves on the fringes of power. In Nairobi, a young Catholic summed it up succinctly. "When leaders like Pope Leo and Cardinal Tagle talk, people like us feel included." It's a testament to how this meeting wasn't only about hierarchy, it was a reminder that the Church is still listening, still engaged, and still deeply connected to its people. In my mind, that meeting stood out for its quiet strength. There were no flashy announcements or immediate decisions made, but the silence around it held so much meaning. In this vast institution, which has roots that dig deep into centuries and spread wide across continents, sometimes the most impactful moments are the unassuming ones. The dignity of that encounter, the seriousness with which it was treated, neither hidden away nor exploited, spoke to something far beyond mere politics. It marked a moment for introspection within the Church, especially for voices that have been marginalized, particularly from parts of the world that have often felt overlooked in discussions at the Vatican. Picture this profound scene: two men, one hailing from the Americas and the other from Asia, sharing a space together. It wasn't just about bridging East and West. It was more about lived experiences meeting true compassion. This gathering represented the universal Church, not as an abstract idea, but as a tangible presence. Groups on the ground, especially those focused on youth, immigrants, and interfaith conversations, started viewing this meeting as a potential turning point, not because of a formal declaration, but due to the implications it carried. As one youth leader from Mexico City expressed, "Humility isn't weakness, it's strength, and it's becoming our guiding light." This perspective emerged even among those who might typically question church authority. A Catholic author from France remarked, "What we want is authenticity, leaders who prioritize people over prestige." Something felt different in the atmosphere after that meeting. In the days that followed, I noticed reflective testimonials pouring in online. Clergy from diverse corners of the globe, from India to Argentina, began sharing their thoughts. I saw seminarians quoting Pope Leo's past homilies, while videos of Cardinal Tagle's older talks gained newfound interest. The faithful weren't just sitting around waiting for announcements, they were on the lookout for signs of change. In the gentle exchange between these two shepherds, many perceived hope. After their private time together at the Apostolic Palace, the buzz grew around what this meant for Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a figure known for his humility and widespread influence. His name had been swirling in conversations about leadership in Asia and beyond, touching on the future of the Church as a whole. Now, with Pope Leo XIV leading the way and a growing need for renewal and outreach looming over the Vatican, the question on many minds is whether Cardinal Tagle is about to assume a critical new role. Although nothing has been officially announced, the air is charged with possibility. I've been observing the recent developments with Cardinal Tagle, and it's clear something significant is unfolding. His background speaks volumes. As a former Archbishop of Manila and now deeply involved with the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, he's been right at the center of global Catholic outreach. There's a buzz that he might soon be in line for even greater responsibilities. Imagine him taking the lead on a mission that focuses on reaching the marginalized or even playing a crucial role in shaping the Church's engagement with our increasingly complex world. This is a pivotal time for the Church. It's not just about managing things anymore, it's about having a vision. Cardinal Tagle has this remarkable ability to communicate with kindness, bridging cultural and theological gaps. He could become one of Pope Leo XIV's most valuable partners. While we don't know yet if he'll manage a specific department or if a new position will be created for him, one thing is clear: the Church needs someone who can build connections, and Cardinal Tagle is exactly that person. His impressive background is well-suited for modern evangelization. Studying theology in Rome and teaching back home in the Philippines has shaped his worldview to be both grounded and expansive. He speaks the language of academia fluently, but what sets him apart is his talent for storytelling. He relates the Church's teachings to the real lives of everyday folks. That pastoral approach has earned him admiration from various corners of the globe. Young Catholics, in particular, resonate with him, seeing their own struggles and aspirations reflected in his words. There's even talk among Vatican insiders that Tagle could step into a role similar to a papal ambassador focused on global dialogue. This would involve representing the Pope at significant international events, peace forums, and interfaith meetings. To take on such a role, you need someone who is deeply trusted by Pope Leo, someone who combines theological expertise with emotional intelligence and cultural awareness. That's definitely Cardinal Tagle. Additionally, there's speculation that Pope Leo might be shifting towards a more decentralized advisory system within the Vatican. It raises the possibility that Cardinal Tagle might lead a new group dedicated to engaging with communities in the global South, where Catholicism is rapidly expanding but isn't always well represented in Vatican discussions. In a world where grassroots realities often clash with the structure of organized religion, I found myself reflecting on the role that leaders like Cardinal Tagle can play. His potential appointment to an elevated position within the Church could signify a commitment to truly listening to the voices that have been marginalized for so long. It goes beyond just governance. It speaks to a rekindled mission of mercy. With many Catholics feeling alienated from Rome, having someone like Tagle as a bridge offers hope. He possesses the ability to translate timeless truths of the Church into a language that resonates with healing, relevance, and compassion. Those close to Pope Leo mention his aversion to clinging to power. Instead, he gravitates towards those who serve selflessly, and I can't help but feel that Tagle embodies that philosophy. The Church needs people who don't just fill positions but truly engage with their roles, enriched by prayer and a sincere dedication to the community. Who knows what surprises lie ahead? That meeting between Pope Leo and Tagle hinted that the essence of the Church might not rely solely on the prestige of titles, but rather on the humility with which one carries them in the service of something far greater. Across the globe, it's fascinating to witness the Church breathing through its faithful. It's not just found in the clergy or sprawling institutions, but in the lives of everyday people. From flickering candles in quiet chapels to choirs that rise in harmony in grand cathedrals, and even small communities coming together over scripture and simple meals, the essence of the Catholic experience is vibrant. As we navigate this pivotal chapter in our Church's narrative, it feels like an invitation, a call to recognize that this moment isn't just for the hierarchy. Pope Leo, Cardinal Tagle, and others in leadership are not alone on this journey. Their prayers, decisions, and testimonies represent just a fraction of the whole picture. The real narrative unfolds in our homes, in local parishes, schools, and soup kitchens, through whispered prayers and bold charitable acts. Revitalization isn't going to come just from Rome. It's going to come from us, the faithful. Each Mass we attend, every rosary we pray, and every act of kindness we perform all contribute to building a renewed Church. If there is one key takeaway from this moment, it's the recognition of our significance. Your presence in the pew, your voice in the community, and your bravery in standing up for what you believe in, they all shape the future of our Church more than you might ever realize. Have you ever thought about your role in faith? It's crucial for each of us to reflect on how we can deepen our spiritual practices, connect with those who feel forgotten, and actively embody the gospel in our daily lives, whether that's within our families or workplaces. This isn't just a passive time we're living in. It's a moment that urges us to participate boldly in a world that often seems clouded by despair. Pope Leo XIII pointed out that true leadership in the Church requires a pastoral, prayerful presence. Take Cardinal Tagle as an example. His life exemplifies how holiness and humility can go hand in hand. Together, these qualities direct us toward a Church that truly listens, opens its arms wide to welcome everyone, and walks alongside its community. And remember, this vision of the Church relies on each of us. As we move forward, more choices will unfold, new appointments will be made, and paths will brighten. Yet, regardless of what transpires within the Vatican, the essence of the Church beats strongest in its people, within our homes and communities, reflected in our daily actions and testimonies. It's vital to stay connected, engage with your Church, lift up your leaders in prayer, and offer support to your parishes. Don't ever underestimate the quiet strength of a faith that's lived out steadfastly each day. If this message resonates with your spirit and stirs within you a desire for something more, I invite you to journey with us. Subscribe to keep updated on the evolving nature of the Church and learn how you can be involved. Give this video a like. Let it touch the hearts of others who might need a little encouragement or who may have wandered away from their faith but are seeking a reason to come back. The Church isn't just an abstract idea. It's a vibrant, living body, and you are an integral part of its hands, heart, and hope. Together, let's walk this meaningful path ahead. God bless you.